In this video, we're going to take a detailed look at Outcast Silver Raiders. This is going to be a longer than normal video for me, so grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and enjoy the show. Let's get into this. Welcome to Solitary RPG. Outcast Silver Raiders is a blood-drenched occult medieval role-playing game in an OSR tradition. What we're going to do in this video is I'm going to go through the contents of this box set. Now, to be upfront, this was the Kickstarter reward box set, and I do not believe it's available anymore. If you go over to Exalted Funeral, there's a new version available for $75, but it's out of stock and it's more of a slipcover. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at all the components that came in the Kickstarter edition. I picked mine up at Gen Con in 2023. So let's take a look at the credits. Here are all the credits, and as you can tell, there weren't a lot of people that worked on this game. It's just a small group of people that brought together a wonderful game. Now let's take a look at the contents that came in that Kickstarter. You are going to notice that the artwork being done by one person is all very thematic with this red and black color use. And not all the art is very detailed. It's kind of sketchy, like sketch art, and I just love it. And it kind of opens up my imagination a little bit, because sometimes when I look at really detailed art, well, it's detailed, that's what I'm looking at. But like Morkborg and some of these other games that use kind of, I don't know, sketchy kind of art or kind of scratchy art, it just helps with my immersion, but that's a me thing. But these are your standees. There were 2 sheets of standees. On one side, you're going to have the use of red in the images, and on the back, it's just going to be black and white. So this way they kind of stand apart. And I've just been popping my standees out and popping them back in, kind of keeping them like a filing system so that they don't get crushed in the box. But yeah, so you got some great standees, and you can use these for any game. I really like them. So along with that, you get some plastic stands for your standees. You're going to have initiative cards, and if you're familiar with initiative cards, they're pretty straightforward. But it's going to give you kind of the steps. You have a move action in combat, and you have a combat action, so you can, the different things that you can do, just kind of like a reminder instead of it just being a number, giving you some additional information. But yeah, you have these cards. There was a GM screen, and it is a pretty useful GM screen. It's going to start with some names on the side, which for a GM, this is awesome to have a name table, especially one for the setting, because that way, in case an NPC pops up, boom, you can go right to it. You have some basic rules here, just for the game, just so that you can refer to them, things that you're going to use on a more regular basis. You have some referee suggestions here of things that you can pull from. And then you have encounters from the referee's compendium on page 24, which I like the fact that they refer to the page so you know where to go. But you have some good information here for encounters, and I like that. But I think for this, the back of it's really where it shines. This really captures the aesthetics of Outcast Silver Raiders. I really like this art. And this is what I mean by like kind of sketchy art, or it's just not real detailed, but it really, for me, inspires a story that I can tell, and I just like it. Like, here's our adventurers, and here's their encounter, and kind of the battlefield in between. So a great GM screen as far as the material goes. It's a very thick cardstock, and yeah, adds to the GM screen. A lot of maps, and they're just awesome. These are all the different encounter sites. So this is stuff for your PCs to look at, and it's just all the different locations in the Mystic North, and that is the setting for Outcast Silver Raiders, and all this stuff is detailed in that setting book. And you just have, yeah, lots of great maps of locations. The Sunken Chapel, just big old frogs. So just information to kind of get your players inspired and let them know where they're at, give them something visual to look at. A wrecked longship. But these just go on. There are some more like maps of like cities and locations. There's an abbey. And then at the very end of this pile of maps that we got, we're actually going to have a map of the Mythic North. And it's two-sided. One side's going to have site locations, little circles letting you know different locations to look up in the book. And the other side's kind of like a player's map that you would show them, and they would just say, well, we're going to go over here, and then you can flip it around and you would know the locations that you're going. And this map is also repeated in the Mythic North. Then we have 3 different books. So we're going to have a player's guide, a referee's compendium, and the Mythic North. And each one of these books is got rules and information to play the game. The player's guide is a very streamlined set of rules and mainly focuses on character creation. The referee's compendium is going to expand on character creation and get more into the mechanics of the game. And then the Mythic North, this is where you're going to find all of the information on the setting, all the location sites, and all the information about those location sites. You're also going to find your overland adventure rules. And this is also kind of your, I'll call it a monster manual or a bestiary, because this is where all the creatures and everything are listed. So what we're going to do is break down each one of these books and kind of go over some more of the mechanics of the game to give you a better understanding of how everything works. One thing that I feel was a really nice touch that the creator did was put silver edging on all the pages on the books. It really just adds a little bit more to what the concept of Outcast Silver Raiders is all about. First book we're going to take a look at is the Player's Guide. You're going to open this up and you're going to see a lot of, frequently referred to rules on the back of the cover and the end page. And just to point it out, if you haven't picked it up already, Outcast Silver Raiders, old school, Renaissance, revival, whatever you want to consider the R and OSR. So very good play on words with the game. But the whole concept of the title of this game actually is very thematic, and we will get into that as we go through the player's guide. You'll be introduced to the concepts. Read these words. So it's going to start out with a little bit of background or fluff information to kind of give your players something to start pulling from, so that way they have an understanding a little bit about how the world works. It's all going to be accompanied by this amazing art, and you're going to see this all throughout the book. But now we'll get into more of the specific, like setting information, materials. This gets into more of the nuts and bolts of the mechanics. One of the things that I really appreciate is the creator is very clear in saying players just describe to the referee what their PCs are doing. They're not referring to a stat. They're not going to say, well, I'm going to make a strength check to do this, or I'm going to use this ability to do this particular thing. That's not what the players are supposed to do. The players are just supposed to narrate to the referee what they are doing, what their PCs are doing. And then it's the referee's responsibility to decide what skills or abilities or what they need to roll to make that happen. And also let them know, if something is unrealistic for them to do, to let them know that's unrealistic. So it's really kind of pulling back to that old school sensibilities of the referees in charge of the game, doing all of the story or unfolding the story or keeping the players engaged in the world, and the players are just talking about what they're doing and moving things forward. So it's really what's kind of carried on throughout here, and I really like that. But it gets into, share the spotlight, be respectful of others, standard stuff. And it just highlights it here, kind of like, here are the rules of our table, follow them. Advice for old school gaming. So one of the things that the author also points out early on right here, combat is dangerous. Your characters will die. You're not playing superheroes, you're playing average people, and they are outcast from society. And we're going to get into that a little bit more on the basic concepts, but you can die if you get into combat, so be very cautious and make sure you're thinking things through before jumping into actual combat. So what is an outcast? Why is it called Outcast Silver Raiders? So first paragraph here kind of summarizes all that for you. I'll just give you a quick read through it. Player characters in Outcast Silver Raiders are outcasts from society. They don't make their living from farming, fishing, hunting, taking up trades, or collecting rent from land leases. Instead, they go on adventures in search of silver. As they accumulate more wealth, they become more experienced at their chosen career of raiding silver, and their expertise in this career increases. So that's kind of the concept, the basic concept of why you're considered an outcast silver raider is you are going out and exploring the world trying to get silver. Silver is actually used to level up your characters, so you're basically buying your levels, but the silver is that you can use for that experience can only be from adventures. It's not from stealing it, it's not from being a landlord or running a shop or anything like that. It is you've gone into a dungeon and you found some silver. There are no treasure tables for encounters here. So you get your experience by actually adventuring, which actually motivates the players to go out and adventure, and I like that. So you have 3 checks in this game for the most part. You're going to have an ability check, a saving throw, and an attack roll. And each one of these will use a different die. And the way it works here, so if you're going to make an ability check, when you roll up your character, you may get a plus or minus to that ability. When you go to roll a check, let's say I'm making a strength check, I roll a d6, I add my modifier. If I roll a 6, I succeed. So there is a possibility that you may not succeed a lot of your checks at first, but as you start gaining more experience and you increase those ability scores, you will be more able to pass some of your ability checks. But yeah, you roll a d6. If you get a 6, voila, you succeed. Saving throws, same concept, but you're going to roll a d10. You're going to add any modifiers from armor or shields or anything that you may have. If you roll a 10, you succeed. And on attack rolls, you're going to roll a d20, add any modifiers, melee combat, range combat, things like that. And if you beat the armor class of who you're fighting, you will then succeed. So 3 different checks using different dice. I really like how that works. And I just think it's kind of different for an OSR game. So I appreciate that. Now we're going to get into character creation. So you're going to have 6 ability scores to roll on. You're going to roll 3d6, and you're going to refer to this small chart here, which goes from -3 to +3, depending on what you roll. Charisma, Constitution, Dexterity, Intelligence, Strength, and Wisdom, sounds pretty standard, is after you've rolled up your ability scores, you're going to total up your modifiers. So if you have any pluses, you'll add all those up. And if you have any minuses, you'll subtract those. And if you go below 0, you did not create your character. What you've created is a dead sibling. And I like that because it's immediately giving you some possibilities to start creating a backstory. It's not saying the sibling died at birth. It's just saying at some point before that sibling became a man or was able to go out on their own, they died, and you can actually make that part of your backstory or part of your motivations in the game. Maybe a raiding party came in, and in their raid they killed one of your siblings, or maybe there's some guilt because you let one of your sibling go out on their own and they got attacked by a wolf. You kind of can start working on that backstory to give your character some motivation. This is set in a very real world of Europe in the dark times. So people died, and you can make that part of that backstory during character creation. So we'll take a closer look at a character sheet that I started working on, getting used to how the mechanics work. I was kind of interested where I would end up, and my rolls were extremely average. I had zero modifiers to any of my rolls, which good or bad, I don't know, but if I make any ability checks, literally I have a 1 in 6 chance of success, which means chances are slim that I'm going to succeed. Now, the rules do allow, for the referee to make maybe modifications to ability checks based on what they're trying to do, maybe giving them bonuses, really up to you. The thing I like about OSR games is you have a lot of freedom to create rules that you feel fit the situation, not necessarily what's written in a book. So you have 3 different boxes. You have your base score, which you need to keep track of because this can increase as you gain experience, and that will give you your modifiers. And then you have a save box. So if you're making a Constitution save or Strength save, you get a +1 to that roll. Then you have this section here for your skills. This is the warrior sheet. These are the skills that I chose for my warrior, and there are some cool mechanics for this that we will cover when we get into it. And then you have your class features. So these are things that are very specific for just the warrior. Down here, you're going to have your attack bonuses. These are predetermined based on your character, your class type. You're going to roll for your hit dice. You got your armor class. Armor class is actually modified by armor, obviously. And then you have some equipment. What I like down here are some basic rules for playing the game, just letting you know about your, for a check, D6 plus mod, 6 plus succeeds. For save, D10 plus mods, D10 plus for succeeds. Attack, D20, attack bonus, meet or exceed the target's armor class. So it's just giving you reminder rules, which is really nice. On the inside of the character sheet, you're going to have retainers. This is a really great rule for this game that allows you to hire people to go along with you on the adventures. One of the cool mechanics about this game is one of them can take your place if you die, and there's the mechanics lay it all out, which I really like. So this way, if you are playing solo and you have a couple retainers with you, your character could die, which is a very real possibility in Outcast Silver Raiders, and one of your retainers can take over, and then you can go to the next town or village or wherever you would go to hire another retainer. I like this mechanic, and I just think it's very helpful. But they can hold your extra stuff, hold extra rations, and they can also help in combat if they pass a morale check. And it's just really neat stuff. Here you just have some blank space to write whatever. Dead siblings, this is where you would, maybe write about your dead sibling, and maybe that creates your motivation as a PC. The language that you speak, I just wrote common just so I can move along the game. I'm not going to get too bogged down in all the different languages in the world. And then you have more rules for overland adventures and movement, combat, things like that. And then we go to the back. This is where you list your equipment. You actually have your non-encumbering item, maybe your trinkets and your wealth. This uses a slot system, so it's based on your strength. And when you're looking up your equipment, it will tell you how many slots that equipment takes so that you can keep track of it. Pretty straightforward character sheet. Now let's get back into the rulebook. And all that information I covered is broken down further here in the rulebook to let you know how to go about creating your character. They're pretty straightforward, pretty quick. It took me like 5 minutes just to roll up my stats, go through my class, and have all the information I wanted for my character. Over here on starting equipment, this is pretty straightforward. All Outcasts start with common clothes, backpack, coin pouch, pilgrim's case, which is kind of like a cookware, tinderbox, things like that, a bedroll, rations, and a water skin. So this is common to all Outcast Silver Raiders. You're going to start with D6 gold pieces, and each gold piece is worth 50 silver. Straightforward, to the point. You can use that money to either buy additional equipment, upgrade the equipment that you start with, or maybe hire your retainer, which is what I did. So if you're a rogue, you're going to start with leather armor, short sword, short bow, quiver of arrows. Sorcerers start with a unique ritual dagger and a staff. Real quick though, on this unique ritual dagger, that is something very specific to Outcast Silver Raiders and the sorcerers, because magic is dangerous and it is ritual magic. It's not reading a book or reading or reciting some sort of a prayer or anything like that. It is blood magic. But in the referee's compendium, it goes into some more detail about this. And if it's something that is not suitable for your table, you could fall back on the traditional read it from a book type magic. But for the most part, you start with this ritual dagger because it's blood magic. So there's going to be some self cutting going on, just so you understand. Warriors start with leather armor, short bow, quiver of arrows, and their choice of either a mace or sword. Then we get into character advancements, and this just goes into more detail about how characters get one experience point for each silver piece worth of treasure they gain from going on adventures, and just reinforces that information. So now we're going to get into the different classes for this game. And again, there's only 3 classes: rogue, sorcerer, and warrior. So here it's just going to talk about your attack bonuses, your hit points, your saving throws, your skills, rogue luck, which is a special rule for the rogue, and then their sneak attack. And it gives an example, and you're going to see lots of examples throughout the books. And then on the following page, this is what happens when you advance. And this gives you all of your information on advancement and a chart to follow as you level up, what you get to do for that level up. The one thing that's going to be different pretty much for the different classes outside of the leveling up are going to be how they generate their skills. So for the rogue, they start with +1 in stealth. In addition, starting rogues may allocate 6 points to any skills they wish. So they can pick any of these skills and add points to them. And then it talks about how to increase those skills. So increasing a skill costs a number of points equal to the new total. So raising a skill from 0 to +1 costs 1 point. From +1 to +2, 2 points. From +2 to +3, 3 points. And if you want to jump immediately to 3, you still have to pay all the skill costs. So if you go to, I want to start my character out at +3 in climbing, it would cost you 6 points that you're allowed to start with at the beginning of the game. So that is what's unique about how skills are developed for the rogue. And also the rogue has luck and their sneak attack. So this gives you all your information. But something you want to pay attention to with the 3 classes is skills are done differently for each character or for each class. And then we get into their advancement charts and everything they get to do when they advance. Here we're going to get into the sorcerer, which is going to have more information because they have like magic that they can perform. I'll just talk about blood magic real fast. I'll just read you the first line here, and that should kind of give you an idea of how magic is done in this game. Sorcerers may manifest forbidden and unholy blood magics by rendering their own body with their ritual dagger and uttering occult words. So that kind of sets the stage of what magic is in this game. But here on this spread, it's going to give you examples of each one of the different starting spells. And here the skills are a little bit different. For the sorcerer, they start with +1 in literacy. Sorcerers may choose to roll for additional skills, or they may pick skills. If a sorcerer picks their skills, they may assign 1 point to 2 different skills on the chart here. If a sorcerer rolls for their skills, they roll a d10 twice on the list of skills. The first skill has +1, the second skill has +2. So it gives you an option. You can either pick your skills, or you may choose to roll, let the dice decide. And if you do that, you get an extra point on one of your skills. So it's kind of a nice difference than the rogue, and I just like it. And then we get into the advancements and just some great art to look at and admire. And then we get into the warrior. Same concept. The skills are going to be a little bit different, but the special ability with combat reflexes, and they actually have some special skills that are specific 2, the warrior, which is mighty blow and miraculous escape, and all that's explained here. And the skills for the warriors, basically they can pick their skills and get the +1, or they can roll for it, and the second one giving them +2. And then you have your advancement chart here for your warrior. Basically, again, when you advance, this is what you get to do to your character. So your base attacks go up, you get some bonuses to ability scores, and you just get some things to make your character better. And yes, all the books have a red ribbon in them to keep with the theme. Then we have some more art. Then we get into the equipment, selling goods, coinage, all that good stuff, and what you can hire. So you can get an animal. Like, how cool is it to take a trained dog as someone to fight with you, and they have their skills and their abilities. But you got your horses. You have vehicles, so you can do vehicle travel in this game. Containers, backpacks, things like that, food and lodging, miscellaneous stuff that you may just want to take with you. And this is telling you, like, basically the slots that they take up and what you can do with these items. Just kind of gives you all your information, your armor, what bonuses you get to your armor class, mounted armor, so if you're going to put armor on a mount, melee weapons, missile weapons, and then it gets into the retainers. This, to me, is one of the better features in this game, is hiring a retainer. First, you got some basic stats for your retainers, and when you go to a town, like basically hiring a retainer, if you're in a small hamlet, you have 1d4 -1 retainers available, small town, large town, city. So it lets you know how many retainers are in the area and what type of retainers. And you can't just pick your retainer, you've got to roll and hire them. But you have your basic stats, you have a laborer, gives you some more additional information about the laborers, how much they cost, their base morale, because if you want them to fight, you have to make a morale check. And then you got mercenaries, you got craftspeople, and craftspeople are kind of broken down into different types of craftspeople. So if you do happen to roll for that, and then you would want to roll for what type of craft person you are hiring. So just really neat. I like how this works. And then you're going to get into playing the game, and it's just going to go into more detail about making the checks on your skills. And then we get into combat. This is pretty straightforward combat mechanics for an OSR game, but it's going to get into, surprise and the initiative and the combat turns. Basically you have a movement action and combat action. That was listed on the cards that I showed when we were doing the unboxing. And this kind of outlines all the different movement actions you can take. And as I said earlier, death is a very real thing in this game, and you are going to make death saves after you go down to 0 HP. And that is going to be a constitution check. And after one successful death save, the outcast stabilizes. Stabilized outcasts remain unconscious at 1 hit point, but no longer have to make death throws. After 3 unsuccessful death saves, the outcast basically bleeds out and dies. So that's how death saves are made in this game. Pretty straightforward, and I like it. Then we're going to get into replacing fallen characters. This is another unique mechanic for the game that the party can actually take part in. If one of your characters die, you can do a glorious remembrance. And basically the party may pay for remembrance of their fallen comrade. Remembrance can be from a lavish funeral, a monument, or burning a longboat sent down a river, or something similar. It takes at least 1 day per level for a fallen character to arrange the remembrance. For every silver piece spent on the funeral, the replacement character gains 1 XP up to 25% of the fallen character's total XP. So it is a way for a party, if you're playing in a group or even solo, that they can pool their money together to bring back another character and give them a chance to level up, not 100% to where everybody's at, but up to 25% to that. So that's a really cool storytelling moment. And then also this gets into the retainers. One can be your heir, And if you do that, it gives you the rules for how that retainer can take your place. Then we're just going to get into adventuring rules. These are just going to give you more detailed rules for certain things, such as breathing underwater, falling, fire, foraging, healing. Talking about mapping, someone should be responsible for mapping. Movement stuff, just really basic information for a player to have access to, and it's all listed in the back of the book. And more amazing art, just love it. And then we get into their third-party licensing. So if you wanted to create something for Outcast Silver Raiders, here are your rules to follow. Then at the back of the book, we get into more of that information on the end page and the back cover, going over equipment and important information so that you have easy access to it. And then we just have the back of the book. Now we're going to take a look at the referee's compendium. This is going to follow the same format as the player's guide. The back of the cover and the end page is going to have the charts that are most referred to so that you have easy access to them. You're going to have your credits page. You're going to have your table of contents. This book is broken down into 4 sections. So we're going to have supportive information for the GM to use. You're going to go into more detail on ritual magic. You're going to go into artifacts and magic items. And you're going to go into expanded character options. And the author is really clear in talking about how this book is basically, I'm going to say, like a toolbox of information that you can choose to use in your game or not use in your game. You have a little fluff information for you to read, again, accompanied by this amazing artwork. It's going to talk about how to use the book, which is just going to go over what I just said. Again, some basic concepts about respecting your group's limits and understanding your table. Giving you some more information about being a referee and some concepts about the OSR, talking about a bunch of different principles to help you develop your skills as a referee. All really good stuff in the game. Talking about danger here again and reiterating, this is not a game that gains experience through killing encounters or anything like that. This is a game about exploration and we'll say treasure hunting or finding that silver, because that is how you're going to level up in this game. But just talking about these concepts, just going into a lot of detail. That's what I like about this referee's compendium and a lot of the GM guides or game master guides that are out there. They're just full of the creators or the authors' experiences and how they run their games, and they're just a great toolbox to give you this information to help you become a better game master. And all this information can also be used to help you become a better solo gamer because you're wearing the hat of the GM and the players, so this is great advice to help you with that. Creating a mood, creating dangers, creating all the things that are necessary to really create that story. How the game works, so this is giving you some broad concepts on how the game works. Low hit point game, so again, talking about, death is a very real thing in this game. This is all just really great advice for you to read and help you develop your skills as a GM or a referee. Here, this is one section that I really wanted to draw your attention to, and I'm just going to read the section and explain why I like it so much. Although the world above is assumed to have a low level of magic, dungeons fill the role of the mythic magical underworld. When the outcasts enter a dungeon, things get progressively stranger the deeper they go. The world above may resemble ours in some historical way, but the world beneath is soaked with strangeness, horror, and awe. So I really like this because it's kind of giving you the sense that on the surface of the world, we're just in a normal world dealing with normal politics, normal life stuff, a tyrant as a king, or just pettiness of people, and you just have those normal conflicts with humans on the surface. There's no real high magic, and also sorcerers are considered an outcast, and magic is not something people are very fond of. So on that surface, that's what you got going on. But when you dive into a dungeon or you get into the underground, because how you get to beneath the surface is really up to you. You fall in a hole, boom, now you're under the surface. But yeah, that is where all the strangeness happens. And I just like that. It gives that sense of adventure. Here, talking about poker chip time tracking. So the author really credited Hot Springs Island as the source for using poker chips for adventure, and here it gives a breakdown of how the chips are used. Basically, the black poker chips are meant for night, the gray ones are for dawn or dusk, and the yellow ones are for the daytime. And it's a good tool for using, just kind of a, how do I want to start my adventure, or I need a time for when something happened, grab a poker chip and you can just kind of go with it from there. Just a neat tool. This is actually what inspired me to go pick up Hot Springs Island, because I like this idea and I just wanted to read more about it in the actual books that it came from. So neat stuff. Again, more amazing art. Then we're going to get into checks and saving throws. So this is going to give more examples, more information, more details than what's provided in the player's guide. This is stuff more for the GM to pull from, to use, and it's just good stuff. Talking about how to run encounters in your game and giving you those details for running combat scenes. Here we're talking about how to reward the players through treasure, how much treasure to give them, giving you a chart here for basically the rewards for certain tasks that the players might do, from menial task all the way up to specialized task, and kind of the silver or gold pieces that you can reward them. Giving them equipment as rewards, retainers as rewards, status as rewards. So just giving you some other tools or other options for rewarding your players. I really like that. Now we're going to look at non-player characters. This is just giving you information on how to run them, giving you the basic stats to work with, and how to make them all a little bit different. A D20 chart on special abilities, a D100 chart on spirit animals, good charts to roll on. Then they got a page here just talking about retainers and how they work, especially in combat. They don't just do what they're told. They have to pass a morale check before they can attack. And then we're going to get into running kind of bigger portions of a game, like if your PCs are taking on like a big project that's going to take some time, kind of how to run it, battle scenes, damaging objects, chase scenes, just information you can pull from for things that might come up in your game sessions. Here's strongholds and how to create them. And then running the world, giving you the creator's idea of how the world should be run and tips and advice on how to deal with that. That's the first section of this book, and this to me really resembles that toolbox sense of these are tools that you can choose to use or not use. It's up to you. So now we're going to get into ritual magic. This, it starts with a little bit of a, I don't know, like a warning, because this may not be for everybody. So this is really meant for the referee. But what ritual magic is, how to cast ritual magic, and then you're going to get a list of 20 different rites that you can pass, and then it just goes into more detail of all of these different, I guess we can call them spells or rituals. But this ritual magic is a little bit more than just reading some words on the pages or waving a wand or doing. It's a process. There's something, you have to do things to make something happen. And the way it's broken down is you'll have the title of the rite. So the rite of cursing. Then in red, it's going to give you a little bit of information about it. So it says the magician grants a demon permission to harass foes. So it gives you kind of like a snapshot of what this is supposed to be, so you don't have to read all this. But then it's going to go into how to perform this. So for this particular rite, the magician binds a demon into a mirror, burns a lock of the target's hair upon the mirror, then shatters the mirror with a small silver hammer worth at least 150 silver pieces. The shattered mirror must be ground into a powder. and the magician must draw the curse symbol upon the target's left shoulder using the powder, which may only take a few seconds of contact. The demon then sits invisibly upon the target's left shoulder, cursing misfortunes to befall them. Each day, at the time that the demon thinks it is most critical, the target will have to re-roll successful checks, taking the new result even if it's a failure. The demon remains bound to the target's left shoulder for 1 week per level of the magician. So that is what ritual magic is about. It's very thematic and very fitting into a magical world, but it's kind of like voodoo or curses, things like that. And it may not be for everybody, but there's there's 20 of them, and they're all just, this art is just awesome. And it gives you all the information that you would need for doing this. And some of these are really cool. It's up to you if you want to include these in your game. That's why it's in the GM's guide. And then we're going to come over here. What happens when you fail? So you have a failure chart. It's a D100 chart. And these are all the different things that can happen to you if you fail. So lots of great information. Oh, look at that. Lots of good information. And after you're done with the ritual magic, you're going to enter into the next section, which is talking about the artifacts that you can put into your games and getting you detailed information about those artifacts, and then getting into magic items and just other items that, again, the GM can use these as rewards or use them as maybe the item that is being looked for on their quest. And then you get some more story to read, just kind of helping you with understanding the world. Now we're going to get into the character options. This is all additional information that the referee can allow into their games regarding different character classes and fantasy races. There's just some information, like here you got like chosen classes. So it's a D100 roll, and if the players roll over 93, they can become one of these classes, which are just different, to bring those into the world if you want to do that. And it's just going to give you your different races. So if you want to be an elf, dwarfs, gnomes, halflings, half elves, and half orcs, some of the ability bonuses that they would receive for them. And then we got some new classes like a barbarian, which that art for the barbarian looks awesome. And then they got their advancement table. We have the druid, if you want to allow the druid in your game, the monk and everything, the paladin, and we keep going. Now we have a priest, and we have a ranger. So that's what I like about this. A warlock is that this is giving you those choices if you want to kind of put your world into a more fantasy fitting world. Another amazing piece of art. Then we have like divine spells or divine magic. These are really good. It says here if you're running the priest, if you want to allow them, and gives you the basic information for them. And then at the very back, we have more of the charts on the back cover and also the back end page. And that's what makes up the referee's compendium. Now we're going to take a look at the Mythic North. This is the setting book for Outcast Silver Raiders. However, it also includes additional rules. It is not just the setting. Going to open it up to Wilderness Encounters, giving you the page number of 36, but have the D120 chart to roll on, random names to roll on, going into the credits, table of contents, letting you know what the book's all about and where everything is located at. More text for you to read and get immersed into the world, introducing this to you, and just giving you some background information for you to pull on, and the history and the geography. Here's the map I was talking about, and here's the keyed locations on this map. When we were doing the unboxing, we showed the bigger map. Well, here it is in the book. Now it's going to get into the hex crawl mechanics. So talking about tracking times and how we use like 6-hour blocks to make up our day, and those are shifts, or in this book we call them watches. and then, sight and distance and getting lost and all the things that you would need for rolling up a hex crawl are all broken down. And those are kind of the rules that are incorporated in this book, is explaining to you how to do a hexploration and some charts for you to roll on. Now we get into some of the factions for this world and some of the important people in this world. And you're just going to go through that, starting scenarios, campaign objectives. This is really going to give you a lot of your information to put together your adventure, and here it's all laid out for you. And what sets this game apart a little bit is that when you're on the road and you're checking for an encounter, you're going to roll a d10. And on a 1, you have a random encounter and you'd roll on the chart. If you're on a trail or in the plains, you're going to roll a d8, and on the 1, you're going to have that. And if you're just out in the random wilderness on a d6, if you roll a 1, you have a random encounter. So it scales how the random encounters work a little bit by giving you different dice based on where you're at in the world, which I really like. Now you are going to notice this goes up to 120, and the way this works for this game is if you're on the road, you just roll a normal D100. So that just gives you this first section of things that can happen to you. If you're on the trail, you're going to add 10 to it. And if you're in the wilderness, you're going to add 20. That's how you can get up to 120. And this just gives you all your information on how to roll for these random encounters. And then we're just going to get into all of the setting information for this game, all the different location sites, and all those maps that I showed you at the beginning are all going to be in here, and just giving you all the information to run your party through these different adventure sites. And it's just a fabulous world to be in. And what I like about this world is it's kind of got its place in kind of this region where you could take the Mythic North and put it in any game that you're already playing, because it's just a region. And for me, the way I'm building my world is I'm not building a world from scratch. I'm building a world by playing games, and I'm taking the settings for those games and just plopping them down on my Pocket Chronicles. And this is one that is just kind of plopped in there, kind of plopped up there in the northwest, because it's got a mountain region that blocks it off, and there's actually a big wall that keeps everything in check, and that's all explained in this setting book. And those are the 3 books. So each book adds rules to the game. So this player's guide is going to give you really basic rules for creating characters and combat, and some of the information that you need for rolling skills and abilities. The referee compendium is going to expand on everything that's in the player's guide, and in addition will give you some different magic to use and some character creation options if you want it. And then the Mythic North is going to be your adventure sites and your locations, and talk about how to handle hex crawls and encounters and all that kind of stuff. So that's what makes up this game. I really like how the author put this all together, and I've just been having a lot of fun playing with these rules, and hope that you find this information useful. So thank you for watching, and have a great day.